Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story podcast. This is Getrude Matshe here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia tonight. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another creative woman coming to us from a completely different part of the world. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hello, greetings. My name is Ewelina Koszykowska. I am 40 years old. I live in the Wrocław area of Poland. And my story begins at birth. I was born as a baby wrapped in a caul. So it's a baby born within the embryonic sac. And that's really where my whole story of becoming an artist also begins. I started to draw and paint at a very young age. We immigrated from Poland to America when I was 3 years old, and we lived in the New York City area. And basically, I just had a pretty reclusive lifestyle as a child, since we were the first generation of our family to immigrate. And I drew a lot, I painted a lot, and that's where my talent began to develop. From there, I started to do more drawings from my imagination. I painted very, very illustrative images, and then I started doing watercolors, realistic watercolors. I took images from mostly National Geographic, and I was replicating them, and I developed my skills mostly from practice. I just painted and drew a lot. And I was doing a lot of writing and diaries and developing ideas. I knew from a very young age that this was my calling, this was my direction in life, this is what I'm going to be doing. And I early on got awards for my work. I got into the Butler Museum of Art in Ohio at the age of, I think, 15. And then I just continued to develop my skills. And I got a full scholarship to the Columbus College of Art and Design. It's a 4-year program where I studied illustration, and I learned about some interesting illustrators at the time. Mark Ryden was doing work in America with pop surrealism, and then I really started to do more illustrative work, and I went away from that sort of realism, reproduction of images. And I got into that scene quite heavily as I started having shows in Brooklyn, in LA, in certain galleries, and it was mostly work from my imagination. They were oil paintings, and they were quite large scale, some of them, and I got involved in studying a lot about Buddhism, and so I was doing images about Buddhists' sort of philosophy. No, I wasn't a Buddhist, but I was really, really interested in some different philosophies. I was doing a lot of studying on meditation and doing a lot of yoga, so I wanted to bring that into my work. But then when I traveled to Asia, I took a hiatus from doing all the shows, and it was a pivotal moment for me because I stepped away from my work and I got to think about really what it is that I want to represent in my work and how technically I want to approach that. So I had about 3 months time where I really started to go inside myself, because in Asia there are many different religions practiced there, and I realized that because I wasn't immersed in that sort of culture all of my life, I felt hypocritical talking about it. So I essentially stood back, and I had to go deep within myself and realize that I want to talk about my birth, how I was born, how it's rare to be born within a caul, and what that signifies in my life now. And that's when I discovered that really we all have these veils, and it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative connotation to that, but basically we're as we're going through life, we're unveiling ourselves. And that's something that really touched me to the core, this sort of unveiling, like whether we're hiding ourselves or whether we're opening up or whether we're, throwing the veil somewhere. So the veil is a significant symbol in my work. I realized that there's a lot of sort of negative connotations with the veil throughout history, which I have studied. But I want to bring the veil into a new light. I want to bring it into a light that it's almost like our aura. It changes. I see it as almost like a spiritual, like gaseous element that surrounds us, and we're working with that constantly. So that's my number one inspiration for my work.
Well, I have gone online and literally cyber stalked you. I have seen some of your pieces. Your work is absolutely exquisite and
Thank you,
very,
Gertrude.
very inspiring. Now, in Africa, we believe that a baby that is born with the embryonic sac around them
Yes.
does develop very, very intuitive gifts. In Africa, they're
Wow.
very spiritual people. They can
Mm-hmm.
see into other dimensions. They get visions. What has been the experience for you, and how is that influencing your life?
Definitely. I feel very intuitive. I've always followed my heart, always. And I feel that I have some kind of psychic abilities. I wouldn't say that I'm psychic, but I definitely feel deeply, and I sense things that, maybe other people aren't sensing. So I like to bring that into my work because I do make social commentary within the context of my work. And it's usually, I might have a certain thing that I would like to say, express, and then what I really want is for my audience to bring to the work whatever they need to receive from it, because it really is, a give and take. It's a dynamic that I think is very important. I can't tell somebody what my work is about exactly, because I want them to receive what they need from it or what they want to get from it.
So the person who is viewing your work will interpret whatever that piece of art means to them, correct?
Yes, that's very important for me. Yes.
Now, not
Yes.
everybody gets to know what their gifts are at a very young age. You were blessed to have found it, to have found your calling at a
Yes.
very young age.
Yes.
Did your family settings, your environment have anything to do with that? Were your parents creative as well? Who fostered the creativity in you?
Both of my parents are very creative individuals in different ways. My mom loves fashion. She sews. She does cross stitching. She does a really amazing sort of. She has such a vision. She's such an energetic visionary. My father, on the other hand, is more creative when it comes to building homes. He doesn't build as his profession, but it's his passion. He loves architecture and interior design. So I think the combo of those two facets really is what encouraged me to pursue the creativity. They didn't have a particular background as far as, they grew up in communist Poland, so they didn't have the opportunities that many of us in the Western world have had, and I've been lucky enough to have. And I'm very grateful for that. And I've just been guided by the angels, if you want to call them, all of my life. And, yeah.
And now I believe you're no longer in the United States. You are back in Poland. What was that
Yes.
transition like? I mean, you were based in the United States all of your life, and now it looks like you're kind of going back to your roots, correct?
Yes, I'm going back to my roots. It's been a journey because I was mostly in the New York area. I lived in Florida for a bit, and then back to New York, and then I moved to London for 5 years. So I had the amazing experience of living in London, and I met some incredible people there. And then I was essentially looking for a base that could also house my studio, because my pieces are quite large. So I wanted the space. I was searching for a place where I can have plenty of space to create, and Poland is wonderful. It's absolutely fantastic. I've loved the journey, and I've already met some amazing people in the arts community here in Poland, in Gdańsk. And I have to say, I'm quite excited. I'll be having an auction at the Sopocki Dom Aukcyjny. It's the Sopot Auction House in November 27th. So I hope to see you there.
Wonderful. I've been to Sopot. My husband, as I told you, is from Poland. So it was really exciting when I got to meet you, because I've been to certain parts of the country, and it is an exquisite place. Beautiful homes, large and spacious. So you certainly found yourself in the right place to continue your journey as an artist.
Yes.
So if I could take you back, let's imagine that time is an illusion and time doesn't exist.
Okay.
And I could teleport you back to that young girl who had this desire to draw, who just knew that this is what she was born to do. If you could go back and give her 3 nuggets of advice, what would you say to her? I'm asking this because there's a lot of creative people in the world who are fearful of their gifts, and they never even have the courage to try. What would your 3 nuggets of wisdom be to a potential artist out there who's listening to us tonight?
I think the number one is just keep creating. Keep creating as much as possible. And eventually, if you don't know what your path is, because I sort of changed stylistically sort of halfway through my career, because I was showing a different style at an earlier age. And then I really found that path as sort of later in an artist's career, I would consider. But just keep creating as much as possible and keep believing in what you're doing, no matter what anyone says. Because, you know, the art world is a world that's full of imagination, and anything is really possible. So I highly encourage to believe in yourself, to have the confidence, and to keep just creating as much as you can.
Now, the technique that you use to create this realistic looking fabrics and veils, you know, I was looking very closely at your artwork, and I can almost feel like I can touch the texture. I can touch and feel the fabric just looking at a picture online. How long did it take you to develop that particular technique?
Well, really, I've been working on it all my life. Eventually you get to the point where I think most artists in my field that get to the point where they can paint anything. So then the question is, what are you going to paint? And just the practice, the constant practice is what brought it to me. Obviously, studying old masters' techniques, that was a very important step along the way. And eventually I came to the point where I started to become more interested in texture. And so I'm using more impasto these days. I'm being more expressive with the veil, because the veil is really the abstract element within my work. Even though sometimes it's depicted realistically, I find it to be the abstract element, because it can change shape, really.
It's exquisite. It's absolutely fascinating. Now,
Thank you.
what has been the biggest challenge throughout your career, and how have you managed to overcome?
I think the biggest challenge probably has been kind of making that leap of faith from the style of work that I was already showing to the veil work. I wasn't connecting with it, and so I was worried about how that would affect my audience. And so I think that was my biggest challenge. But I knew the direction I needed to go, so I had faith that it would be wonderful. And so I think that has been my biggest challenge as far as following my heart goes with my career path.
It's interesting that we were connected by a mutual friend, and that you met Jules in Indonesia, in Bali.
Yes,
I
she's
have my
fantastic.
own weird Bali story of discovering the true me by
Bali.
collapsing with congestive heart failure in a rice field in Indonesia. but
Oh,
it is a very, very spiritual place, which
hmm,
kind of allows you to, I don't know, tap into the full version of you. A lot of people
definitely.
rebirth their lives when they are in Bali. It really is my spiritual
Yes,
healing space in the world. What
I
was
would
your
say the
experience?
same. I would say the same. I didn't go to Bali. I went there more for recreation, but I wasn't expecting that I'd get so much from Bali. I visited an artist by the name of Ashley Bickerton. I started my trip there in Uluwatu, and he's a surfer and an artist. He does amazing work. And then I made my way to Ubud, where I spent the majority of my time and made incredible friends, lifelong friends. And I got to step back from the hustle bustle of New York. And when I got back to New York City, I was thinking, gosh, everybody just needs to go to Bali and have that moment with themselves and with the earth, and just to feel themselves. I think for me it was just wow. It was life changing.
It does force you to slow down a pace. It really does allow you to
Yes.
go inwards. Absolutely
Yes, it does.
fascinating. So,
And the
why do you think? Yes,
Indonesian people. I learned a lot from the Indonesians. They're so loving and wonderful.
why do you think storytelling is important for the future of humanity? Why is it important for us to share our stories, do you think?
I think it's pivotal. I think it's really, storytelling has always been the fabric of society and of culture, and it's what connects us. It's what's connecting us today. I mean, everything's going on online, and I think we can find a huge amount of inspiration through the willpower of people's stories. We really grow, and um, I think that's really it. Like, it awakens us. I've been inspired by so many people, and so grateful by the people that I've met in my life, and that's really what has made me the person that I am today.
So, every person that we meet really is a door into another world. If we take the time to open those doors and get to know those people and hear what their stories are all about as well, like that's been my life philosophy, is that every single
Yes.
person I meet,
Mhm.
every conversation, you are walking into another world.
Yes. And the thing that I would like to add to that is, I look at the art world, and the majority of the history is obviously male driven. And now we have such an opportunity as women to express ourselves and to shed a light on the world that we see, which is such a time in history. And I want to inspire other women to follow their creative passions. We have so much to share and so much to give, and I I hope for all women who have this drive to create, to share, and I'm so blessed and grateful that I've had the opportunity to do so.
That is wonderful. We're going to take a little commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to explore a little bit more about your art, your choice of focusing on the feminine figure. So, this is a call to everybody out there. The Her Story movement is looking for your stories. We are having an online summit in November. Please go onto our website, register to speak. Do not go to your grave with your story. Welcome back, everybody. I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating lady coming to us from Poland tonight. Ewelina, thank you so much for being here. Your story absolutely inspires me. Now, let's delve a little bit into some of your art. Like I said, I have been cyber stalking you, absolutely fascinated with your work. Your choice to focus on the feminine figure. How did that start and why? And what does it represent to you?
It started when I read a book. I was reading a lot of Riane Eisler, who does fantastic work about the story of women within history. And then I read a book, many artists have read it, it's called John Berger, Ways of Seeing. And he talks about the male gaze and how throughout history, a lot of that images that we're seeing through a male's point of view. And that's really what started my journey as far as representing women. I wanted to do nudes in a way that wasn't sexual. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because I think they're fabulous paintings as well. But I wanted to represent the female nude in a way that it's here I am, and this is me. And that's what I wanted to say with my images of the female. I particularly look for models that have an amazing energy about themselves or have a specific look. I'm not looking for models that are typical what we see in the media often. I'd like women to feel comfortable with who they are, and I want the body to go beyond the form of the body. I want the body to represent more of the spiritual aspect. And I think women have a lot to give in that area. So that's something that I felt was important to represent.
Well, the divine feminine is definitely an energy that is needed in the world right now. I think,
Yes.
the imbalance that we are experiencing is because women haven't been heard. They are not showing up in a very, very strong way. And you are doing an amazing job in putting that forward in a very, very beautiful way. And also
Thank
not
you.
objectifying the feminine figure and allowing those of us who have the lumps and bumps and curves and big hips to also feel feminine, because the image
Yes.
that has been portrayed so far isn't what a lot of women are like. And we're now having a lot
Yes.
of issues, especially with young girls. Let's talk a little bit about
Yes.
self-image in women and
Mm,
in young girls and teenagers and the importance of that.
mm,
What is your view and what's your take?
mm. Gosh, that's such a hot topic. I think something that's sort of hit me recently is with my Instagram, because I used to edit images in my Instagram, and I realized how much of an impact that has on young adults. So lately, I've just not been editing. I've been trying to show more of my true expression instead of everything being so, almost imperfect. I think it's such an important topic, and it's definitely something within my work that's why I want to portray real bodies, but more than just bodies. We are more than just bodies. So definitely.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of parents with young girls are struggling because of Instagram, having to
Hmm.
Photoshop images, post them, and then kids look at themselves in the mirror and think, why am I not perfect?
Yeah.
And not realizing that a lot of the images that are being put out there aren't real, that a lot of
Yeah.
photoshopping is happening. And yeah, I think we've got
Yeah.
a lot of work in that direction in
Yeah.
helping the youth love who they are and just be who they are.
Yeah. And I think the more you focus within and expressing yourself as who you are, the more you step into your power. And that's really the message that I think is the number one message. Just keep going within and discovering more of who you really are instead of being so influenced by the outer images that dance around. So I really think that once you step into your power, then all things are possible.
That is wonderful. Now, every time I meet someone who speaks another language other than English, I ask them to say something in Polish this time to our audience, because we are wanting our platform to not just appeal to the English speaking world, but to appeal to people of different
Wonderful.
nationalities as well. What could you say to encourage another woman who has a story in Polish, has always been afraid to share who she is? Please, can you invite them to come onto our platform, the importance of sharing her story? And so I can use your words to appeal to more women from Poland to become a part of our movement and the importance of storytelling.
Wonderful. Dzień dobry, Polska. Chciałam pozdrawiać z Wrocławia. Chciałam powiedzieć, że dzisiaj mamy taką siłę, taką moc, że możemy naprawdę wszystko zrobić, co marzymy. I chcę po prostu dać siłę do wszystkich, specjalnie kobiety, a mężczyzn tak samo, żeby naprawdę w siebie wejść do sercu i zapytać, kto ja jestem i co ja chcę w tym świecie robić.
Wonderful. Now, how did your parents manage to keep your language alive, bringing you up in the United States? What was it like in your home? Most kids who are brought up in a foreign country lose their mother tongue. How did your parents manage to do this?
Yes, you cut out there for a second. I think it was challenging, to be honest, if I'm really honest, because I was the girl who brought kielbasa sandwiches to school, and everybody sat like 10 feet away from me because it was smelly. But maybe that's why I'm vegetarian today. No, I don't know. But no, it was challenging because we didn't really integrate with the culture so much. I think that's another thing that caused me to be quite hermited as a child. Yeah, no, it was challenging, but we spoke Polish at home sometimes. I don't have the best Polish skills. It's a very difficult language, but I'm happy that we did have some of the Polish culture within my home, and so now that I'm here in Poland, I feel quite at home with my roots.
That is absolutely awesome. So my last question for you is this. Again, if time was an illusion and I could teleport you into the future, to the 100-year-old you sitting in your rocking chair with your dogs, your cats, your grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and you could have a conversation with that older woman based on how you are living your life and how you've lived your life, what would you say to her?
I would say thank you. I would say thank you, not just for her strength, but thank the generations that brought her here. It's very simple.
That's absolutely awesome. And she has guided you to get there. She is guiding you now. Thank you so much for coming online and gracing us with your presence today. And I'm hoping that whoever has tuned in today, you have gotten some little nuggets of wisdom if you're somebody who's creative. Practice, practice, practice your craft. They say that for a pianist to play the piano, they don't just sit down in front of that musical instrument and start to play. The same applies to your art. So if you're passionate about art, make it your vocation. Practice makes perfect. Thank you so much, Ewelina. This has been absolutely wonderful sharing you with our community
Thank you,
tonight.
Gertrude.
And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. I will be
Thank
back
you.
again tomorrow with yet another fascinating guest. Have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. Bye for now. Thank you, Ewelina.